All right, today is Wednesday, November 4th, 11 a.m. Recording is on. In just a minute, I'm going to talk through the next couple assignments, including our in-class assignment today. Obviously, there's an election still going on. I have to say, nothing shocks me anymore after seeing last night. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days as to who the winner is. But in any event, as we get started today, I wanted to check in on one other thing on this Bloomberg Trading Challenge. This is again section 101. Share my screen. So this would be where we stand today in the Bloomberg Trading Challenge. So you can see here, based on portfolio value, still relatively close. Very important for the second half of the semester, you must have 10 more longs incrementally. So 4 of the teams have already met that criteria. These 2 teams need to get at least 4 more longs and 3 more longs to qualify, by the end of the trading sim, which is going to be in December. So we still got a little over a month to go, but nonetheless, just want to give you an update on where we stand as of today. So that is our trading sim results for this session. All right, so what I wanted to spend our time in class today doing, will actually probably be easier if I share the desktop, is 2 things. One, we are going to do I'm going to give you most of the class time just to get it done today, an in-class valuation of Target, as in TGT US Equity, the Walmart competitor. You'll basically have to create the 4 models yourself and submit that without a write-up. and this is more to make sure that you understand the process to do it and get a dry run of that process. And I'm making it due tomorrow, essentially end of day. But I'm going to give you class time today to do it. And if you follow along, I don't think it will actually take you the entire class to do it. Again, assuming access to Bloomberg, but basically I'll give you tomorrow to submit it. The reason why that's going to be important is you're going to use the same files to do the same assignment again as an actual homework assignment due Monday for Merck. And that one you're turning in with a write-up. So in addition to the 4 Excel files, you're going to write up your assumptions for the as-is. You're going to write up your key assumptions for the bull, the bear, and the target model. And again, minimum 500-word paper. So in order to be able to do that, we need to practice how to update the model here in class today, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. Okay, so we're going to use and pick up on the modified and finalized as is from Walmart that we completed in class on Monday. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. And again, I'm going to start doing the in-class assignment today. I'm going to kind of help do the as is. And then basically you can pick up from there and do the bull, the bear, and the target. If you follow along and can finish, you're welcome to submit this by the end of class. If not, just need to submit this by end of day tomorrow. But again, you need to kind of understand the process for updating this that we're about to go through, because you're going to have to do it yourself as well on Monday for Merck. Remember, TAs have office hours tomorrow and Friday as well if you're looking for some additional one-on-one assistance with this. All right, so with that in mind.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry not to interrupt you, Professor, but
No.
I'm just looking for the target evaluation right now, and it's just, is it uploaded or have you not even uploaded it yet?
Yeah, we're going to do it right now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's a good clarification. So here we go. I'm going to share my desktop. Theoretically. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Excel model, which was the final modified Walmart as is file that we did in class on Monday. And I noticed in a later section that I made a mistake when I recreated it. So you got to fix my mistake, which is in the DCF valuation tab. When we created the Bloomberg enterprise value, I clicked on the wrong year. I clicked on column F for the cash balance, which is supposed to be the last reported year, when I should have clicked on column G. So again, your formula, if you followed along in this section, should be D19, which is the enterprise value minus all the cash, and you subtract off the balance sheet G4 and G5, as opposed to F4 and F5, which I mistakenly clicked on here, which is basically subtracting off the 2020 cash. And I think I actually clicked on the 2019 by mistake. Again, not going to affect it too much, but we want to get this right. So make sure you're subtracting these two numbers. So just to make sure we had the right file. Okay, so your number should be 473,22854. Okay, so again, what we want to do is we want to do a target as is to start with our valuation. Then again, we'll do the bull, the bear, and then the final target of target, which is going to be hard to say. But essentially, let's go ahead and start the process. The first part of the process is we're going to save this file. Okay, and we're going to rename this file instead of Walmart. I'm going to call this TGT for target as is. And I'm just going to add on, because I'm going to do this multiple times today, section 101. I'm going to put it in my, where over here, I'm going to create a folder, homework. No, it's in class, target, in class. All right.
Professor?
Yes.
Okay, wait, hold on. I was gonna say if you could go back to the formula for that. Hold on, I see it now. G4 minus.
Just switch. You just add it right in place. I clicked on the wrong column. I should have clicked on 2020, which was G4. I clicked on column 2019 by mistake, F4. So just take D19 minus G4 minus G5 instead of F4 and F5. So change column F to G. Everything else will work. Okay. Again, just would slightly affect these multiples because I had the wrong year here for the enterprise value. All right. So again, we save the file to the new file. So it still has the Walmart data. So the first thing we need to do is we need to update this Walmart historical data with the TGT target historical data that we're going to do. So this is what I showed you in class on Wednesday, and you're going to have to do on your Bloomberg terminals. So back to Bloomberg. So we go to TGT US Equity, which is the company target. And then you go FA. And then under FA custom, you should have created, I kind of give you a hint in this in Monday's class, the model export template. Okay, so this is the 6 historical year template that you should have created. Okay, and so again, we're going to export 6 years. So just double check your settings one last time, which we talked about in class, but we want 6 years under global settings. We want to have none of these boxes checked. We want to have ascending order, and we want to make sure that we're exporting values. Okay, so assuming you had all those, you're ready to go, then you do export to Excel, the current template. And that will get you the target data, right? With the 6 historical years, most current year on the right, basically matching the format we need row by row in the model here. Okay. And then the one trick that somebody had mentioned as they were recreating this to me, I've sent an announcement on, was for cash equivalents and STI. For some reason, if you typed in the database name, it was having trouble finding it. So you had to type in the friendly name to get to the database name. Don't know why. But regardless, you should be able to recreate this. So back to this, as I also mentioned on the video from Monday, column B is hidden when you export. So if I unhide it, it's actually there. It's just hidden in the export. I don't know why Bloomberg does it that way, but the column B is actually hidden, so it should match exactly. All right, last thing before we move this file over, you see these dashes, right? These are blanks in the database. So when there's a blank in the database, Bloomberg doesn't have the data, it gives you a dash, and dashes destroy Excel. So it will choke Excel, and formulas that refer to cells with dashes in them will just error out. So we don't want to have these long dashes in our model. Okay, and I haven't found a way to get Bloomberg to default these to 0, because if we don't have any data, they're basically 0. So we have to manually change them. So this is an important step that you need to do. So basically find one of these long dashes in Excel, go up to edit, and then go to a replace, find replace. And what you want to do is, easiest way to do this is copy it first, edit, find, replace, find what, paste the long dash, replace with 0, replace all the zeros. So 51 long dashes are now replaced with 51 zeros. And that's important because if any of those long dashes stick around, it's going to cause problems in our model. Our model won't work. So I now have the target data exported, got rid of all the long dashes with zeros.
Can you do that
Can I
again?
ask a question?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible to export it without it exporting into like your browser? Like, is it possible to export it straight into Excel? Because whenever I click export, it just opens in like a browser Excel file.
I don't know. I don't know. But go ahead. If somebody has a tip.
Yeah, I could answer that. So when you export it, it's going to export in Bloomberg. So what you do is do file, save as, and then there'll be an option save to my device. I think that's what it's called, save to my device. And then that will download to your device. And then when you copy it and paste it over, you'll get the same format for it.
So there's just an extra step since you guys are doing this remotely and I have a Bloomberg terminal on my machine. So please take his advice. File, we say save as remote is the location.
Yeah, so file, save as, and then it says it should be like saved to my device or
Save to my device, put it
and then
somewhere
it'll download.
and save it as an Excel file first and then reopen it in Excel. Or if you can't figure that out, you could save it locally on the cloud computer and then just email it to yourself or something like that. That's another option. But you might have the extra step of saving it before you open it to Excel. But that's the point. What I will then do is I'm going to save this as my target data file, just so I have a copy of it. And you don't technically need to do this, but I'm going to do this so you have it. We fall.
Professor, can you please just show one more time how you change the dashes to the zeros?
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you.
So just see if I can undo this. Let me undo. All right. So if you go to a cell with a dash, just edit, copy the dash, because it's hard to recreate the long dash from a keyboard. And then you go to edit, find, replace. If you have the Windows version, it might look a little different. And then just in the find what, just edit, paste. And then replace zeros, replace all. And it should replace 51 dashes, long dashes with 51 zeros. And unfortunately, as I said, I don't know how to stop Bloomberg from giving us these long dashes. We just have to do this process every time. All right, so this is the model tab, this is the model data tab. I've now saved this on my hard drive. I have both files open. So relatively straightforward process, but then take the file you just exported, select the whole tab by clicking right here. That selects the whole tab. Copy the whole tab, right click with your mouse, copy it, or if you don't have a mouse, edit, copy. But then this is very important. When you go to the Walmart tab, model data, select that whole tab again, because you're going to replace it a whole tab, right click and don't hit paste, hit paste special values. And the reason why you want to paste special values is that when you're just copying and pasting the data, you're just pasting the numbers. You're not pasting the formats, you're not pasting the links, you're just literally overwriting the numbers that you had copied over. And so if you do that, then all the target data should be updated here where the Walmart data was previously. Okay. Now, next step, which is very important, assuming you did it right and you did it row for row, go to your CFI. Make sure your CFI still balances. That's always my check. Because if your CFI balances, then you're probably okay. If your CFI doesn't balance, then you have an error in the file that you have exported, right? And one of two things has happened if your CFI doesn't balance. Either you have an error in your model, all right, which is unlikely at this point if you've been following the process, but it's possible. Or, and it didn't happen with Target, and it's probably not going to happen to you, but every now and then it does, that this list of fields over here that we exported, there's another Lego. Like every now and then I stumble across a company that has mostly a balance sheet field, but it could be an income state field that we've not run across before. Because as I said, Bloomberg technically says their fields are standardized, but every now and then they have a company that has a field that is not standard. And if that field is missing and we don't actually have it on the balance sheet in this raw list of files that we're exporting, then our model won't balance. And so we'd see a CFI unbalanced. And then we'd have to go back and figure out what the missing field is, add it to this list. You can see a few that I added down here at the bottom, like unbilled revenue, liabilities, discontinued operations, deferred compensation liabilities. Like these things were found over time near the bottom that you just have to add at the bottom to your export list and then hook into the model. But that shouldn't apply to either Merck or Target. So back to this, check for CFI balances, and it does.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes.
And this might just be particular to me, so if you can't answer, that's fine. But so mine in 2021 is the 1686.3 like yours. And it's all like 0 for the rest of the years, but for the rest of the years it's 1673.4. But it still says 0 on the bottom for all of the years, like it balances.
Don't know. Let's handle this offline at the end of class. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here. We now have copied over the data. Okay, so we now have the model data copied. Now, next, we want to go to the assumptions tab, and we want to start updating the assumptions with Target's assumptions. The first one to do is check the last reported year. That's easy to do here in the model data because our last reported year is right here, 2020. All right, so it's the same as Walmart, so we don't have to change that. Operating cash as a percentage of revenue, we're generally leaving at 2%. You might say 1%, 2%. You can make arguments for each. It's probably not going to affect your valuation too much, so we can leave that as an assumption. Next, we're going to need a WACC. Okay, so it's very important that you take these screenshots at around the same time. Okay, because obviously one of the challenges we had on Monday is that the multiples we did for Walmart were not exactly matching the share price of Walmart because they were a week apart. So you want to have everything done pretty much around the same time so that way your model will sync up. So back to the WACC. So let's go to Bloomberg and let's go to Target and then let's take our WACC screenshot. So today Target's WACC is 5.7%. And again, I'm going to take and save this as a screenshot just as a record of what we did here in class. So call this downloads folder, TGT WACC. All right, next. So that's 5.7. I'm going to go ahead and update the model. Make that 5.7. Okay. These I'm going to leave alone for the time being. And next I need to understand what the shares outstanding are. So DES. Now, generally, when you take the screenshot for the DES, this is the current share price of the company, and that's the share price that we're going to use for the as is. So file, take screenshot, DES, save, TGT, DES. All right, so I'm actually going to update the assignment so that I believe the screenshot that I just took downloads was a price of 157.06. So two things. One, in the ratios tab, I'm just going to do it now. The observed share price that we're going to go to is 157. I'm going to match my DES, 157.06. Okay. And I'm also going to update the assignment for the in-class assignment to be that share price. Because obviously in the last hour, the share price of Target has changed to 157.06. Now, here's the important point. For your Merck assignment or any other valuation you do, we're going to do it at a certain time. And as you can see, just based on the start of the price today and where it is a couple hours later, price is changing constantly. It's going to change every day. So if you're doing a valuation for Homework 9 for Merck today versus tomorrow, you might actually have a different price. So that's why I'm asking you to do a DES screenshot, because basically it's the DES screenshot that you're going to do your as is to, and that's you're kind of like proving the point that that's the price that I'm using at that point in time, and all your other data should be around that point. So back to this. On the DES screenshot, you also have the current shares outstanding. So again, for Target, it's 500.6 million shares. So if we don't update, so I'm gonna go back to our model, the assumptions to 500.6 million shares, we're gonna get a really weird share price because our previous share price for Walmart was sitting there. So I'm gonna switch that to 500.6, okay? And then I need the consensus data for revenue, EBITDA, and these two second forward year multiples. That is gonna be the third screenshot that I need in Bloomberg. So you'll need 3 screenshots to do evaluation, and that is on the EEO screen. So these are the earnings estimates that you need. And again, I'll take and save this screenshot just for a reference. Target EEO. All right, so what do I need? I need revenue for the next 4 years to be typed in. 87,322. So again, 2021 is now 87,322. For 2022 is 86,833.
Professor, how do you get the window to like zoom out so that you can see all 4 years?
Which one? In Bloomberg?
Yeah.
I believe somewhere up here, there is a, is it right here? Or here? Nah. There's a zoom button somewhere on Bloomberg, which allows you to zoom. I don't know where to find it off the menu. I don't know. I know it's somewhere up here if you play around with it, but you can change the zoom. Just look up in the help desk, change zoom on the help page. But let's go back to 2023, revenue 92,213. And 2024 is 98,955. A bit of an aberration. All right, and then EBITDA margins for the 4 years, 76.23. 78.82. $81.60 and 85.14. Then EV to revenue and EV to EBIT. Second forward year, count over 1.01 and 16.12. On 16.12. All right, then I want to go over here to my ratios. And this is the part that is going to be something very important to remember. These cells in yellow are the ones that we had changed. The white cells are formulas. Those got adjusted. These yellow cells, some of these yellow cells equal the last year, which is fine as a starting point. And some of these yellow cells do not equal last year. They're hard-coded with numbers because those were assumptions that I changed for Walmart. I just got to be very careful about this because my Walmart assumptions, for example, margins and EBITDA, growth rate, and tax rate are still here. And so if I don't realize that when I'm making the changes to Target, that could cause real problems in the model. It'd be much more of a problem to do Merck than it would be Target, just because Merck's numbers are far different than Walmart's numbers. But just remember that your hard-coded numbers are here. So one thing I like to do is kind of reset the things that I normally change. So for example, for L3, just start out by having a default equals K3. And then same thing for EBITDA equals K7. And then just copy that over. Just kind of reset those. Make sure I didn't change anything else. The other one was the tax rate is unchanged in this version of the model. And I don't think we changed anything else here. So, yes, okay. So here's the point. By resetting these, I don't have those hard coded now. I have to adjust these. So here's the point. Back to the assumptions. I know 6.3% is my estimated operating margin. That's 6.03. So to make that 6.27, I need to add 24 basis points, so 9.64. 9.64%. 6.31. Right. Oh, gotta go 4 basis points lower. All right. Add extra decimal point here. So 9.6. All right. So 6.27 for my perpetuity operating income matches that. Okay. And so now I'm at $115 share price. So obviously they're not expected to shrink. Okay. So here's the next piece. I need to make sure that I get a realistic G, which is probably going to be higher than the 0.85. So again, if my model is 14 and my observed, I got to get this to 16.12, probably going to have a higher G than 1.85%. So put it at 2%. And you can use the solver for this, but somewhere around 1.6. I'm basically optimizing this so that these two start to match. So somewhere around 1.62 maybe, it's going to basically match. Okay, so I match my solving for G, backing into a G to match the EV to EBIT multiple. All right, so that's my G. Then I go back to my share price. And then my final piece is I have this margin to play with. I don't think I need to change that much to smooth between here and here, and these two growth rates. So then I back into my growth rates that basically match this. So this is probably going to end up being something like 3, 4, 5. Growth rate's a little higher here. 6 maybe. Oh, sorry. One last thing. Before I forget this, I forgot to change tax rate. So let me go back, undo those. The other key driver is the tax rate. So 2 places to find the tax rate. So for target, you go to EVT. And as I said, look for one of the most recent earnings calls. They're having one in November 18th. So the one before that would have been here in August. Click on the transcript. And in the transcript of the last earnings call, search to see, and use a quote around it, it's an exact search, to see if tax rate came up in the earnings call. And it looks like it may not have. So tax. All right, so for some reason, the word tax didn't come up. That's kind of surprising. All right, so if I don't find it here, then I go to BRC and I start looking for the analyst reports, right? And so essentially I look through the analyst reports and typically, let's see, Deutsche Bank here has a tax rate. Because usually if the analysts include their model in, let's see if they have a model here. This one may not have a model. So using the longer one here from Deutsche Bank, try this one. Usually when the analysts include their Excel model, here it is, then they're typically including a tax rate in this. All right. All right, well, they didn't give us a tax rate, but they did give us a tax number because they had pre-tax income and income taxes, and we could look at it here. So 1130.8 divided by 5140.2 equals 1130.8 divided by, so I'm just taking the income tax divided by the pre-tax income, 5140.2. They're using a 22% tax rate. Okay, so that would be the tax rate for Target, 22, which is basically what they were paying last year. And so now I would then do my growth rates.
Professor, what number did you divide it by? 11, 38.8.
I just took the final year here for Deutsche Bank. And I just took the income tax divided by the pre-tax income. 1130.8 divided by the pre-tax income. So just solve for the tax rate because it's sitting here using two equations because that times the tax rate is that. Okay. So here's the point. Deutsche Bank has to be using a 22% tax rate. You could have used the JP Morgan one or something. Usually JP Morgan spells it out for you. Barclays spells it out for you. I don't know why Deutsche Bank didn't. But the point is 22%. And so we're probably looking at somewhere around 5.5% growth in the out years, 6%. And that gets me to my as is. Okay. Now, I'm now, if you were able to get pretty close to where I am, you're now 80% done with this in-class assignment. Because the last piece is that you save this file. And when I go here to these multiples, these model multiples are the multiples of that share price here. So by definition, we're going to assume that they're reasonable because that is the current share price of the company. Okay. Now, here's the thing. These were Walmart's multiples. Okay. So if I'm going to compare Target and I'm going to compare Target today, I need to get Target's peer group today. So back to this, I need to go to Bloomberg. It's my final one. And I need to go to TGT US Equity. And then I want to go to RV. Which is my peer group. And so again, I want to make sure I have the right peer group. So I'm okay with the mass merchants peer group for this company. I go to custom. And then I take that multiples template that we created in class on Monday for the four multiples, four targets with the industry average. And their group may be slightly different than Walmart's. I don't know because I don't remember seeing Ollie's on Walmart's list, but export that to Excel. And this is the last five. So here's the point. Take the data here, right, from market cap on down, copy it, and then basically come here and delete it. And then basically right click, paste special values. Back, target, copy, click here, edit, paste special values. I'm just pasting the numbers. Okay, so now I've gotten the multiples for Target as opposed to Walmart, and I have the industry average relative to Target industry average, and then I can do this to help me with my sanity check. And so again, for the as is, you don't have to worry about the sanity check because by definition, it's the same price because people are paying for it, right? So now file, save, and then start saving my model. File, save, create my bowl, come up with my scenario for assumptions, and that basically check these multiples to see that believe I have a reasonable bull, file, save as bear, file, save as target. And remember, the target price, the final model should be between your bull and your bear. And that's the one that you think is kind of dialing the needle where you think it is most reasonable. And it could be anywhere in that range between the bull and the bear. And the final piece of that for the assignment is just creating the buy, sell, hold opinion. So the idea of the hold is if you're within 10% of the current share price, it's considered a hold, right? For more than 10% of the current share price, if your model's that in that range, then you're saying the company's a buy. And if you're less than 10% for your target share price for target of the current share price, then you're a sell. That's all you have to do for the target assignment. There's no write-up. You're just putting in those models, putting in those scenarios. Now you might want to look through mini EIC, meaning look at the BICO, get some sense, look at the ANR, to kind of, what are the analysts putting for target share prices? Might help you a little bit understand what's going on, right? Go to there's a BICO on target to get a sense of what's going on in the industry and what the analysts are saying. Might help you with your bull and your bear. Again, you're not doing a write-up for this assignment, but you're just trying to create what it would be a reasonable bull and a bear for the retailer. Probably not too different than Walmart, but this is just practicing the process. So this in-class assignment is literally just practicing the process so that we can create a repeatable process in this class, right? Goes further with homework 9, because with homework 9 for Merck, you're going to actually have to do a write-up and explain your assumptions as you're changing it through the models. And so again, the key assumptions, percentage change in sales, EBITDA margin, tax rate, your G, and your long-term kind of the growth rates and margins for the firm, the long-term growth rates, years 5 and 6. And then basically save those files, submit those files, and that's the process that we're going to go through. All right, I saw some questions here in the chat. Somebody asked if I could go slower. Sorry about that. The good news is this is being recorded, and very shortly you'll be able to watch the video on Zoom and or YouTube. So the question next to the chat is, do we have to write the buy, sell, hold in the Excel model? No, you don't. You have to put it in your paper for Merck. And in the submission for the homework assignment, just put it somewhere. Yes, so in your target valuation, just write the word buy, sell, hold in your target valuation. I'll append that to the assignment. And so somebody said, Rachel Heck said, is it okay if we're slightly off? Sorry for identifying you. But the last question I would say is the standard for the as is within $1. Okay. So if you are a couple pennies off from mine and you're still within $1, you're okay for your as is, right? And then your bull, your bear, and your target price, because that's how you're going to be judged. All right, again, other questions, please ask them now.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make when you say like reasonable bear, that's comparing to the multiples tab and seeing if it's like within the range of maybe the max a competitor falls in a certain category.
Well, exactly. And again, it's subjective. It's like the traditional Supreme Court definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. Okay. And unfortunately, so here's the point. I'll just do a quick example. If my price is 157.06, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop this for purposes of creating an unreasonable bear. Let's say I get my price at, I don't know, $21 a share. Let's be crazy here for a second. Then I go here to my multiples. Target, no one's going to pay 26 cents per dollar of sales for Target. Like that's unreasonable. Like even the poor performers in this industry are not trading at that valuation. And so it would have to be a true catastrophe that went on at Target for that price to drop that far. So I'm just saying, could the price drop that far? Again, I'm not going to say it's a 0 probability because I wouldn't have predicted the election to be this close last night, given the polls 2 days before. So God knows. But that being said, I go back to here. That seems a little unreasonable for your bear. You're too bearish in your bear, right? So what is reasonable? I don't know, but I'm starting to look at these numbers. And right now, Target's close to 1 on an EV to sales. Target's close to, an 11 on an EV to EBITDA. Clearly, they're not going to pay 3 times EBITDA for the company and the share price. There'd be too many bargain hunters coming. They could probably be broken up in a chop shop and sold off for parts and made more money than that. So those are the things that you'll have to start thinking about when you do your bull and your bear. Again, I'm not asking you to write this up per se as you're doing the target because this is process, but I am asking you to write it up when you go through Merck and to explain why you think it's reasonable, why you think the bear is reasonable, why you think the bull is reasonable, and to some degree, why you think your final valuation is reasonable. Other questions? Undo the damage here.
Yeah, I have a quick question as well. So when we do the bull bear and I guess the target, so the 4 main things that we should be changing is the growth rate, the revenue growth rate, and then EBITDA, and then tax rate, correct?
Well, yes, but so I would make sure, and G, G,
Yeah, G.
yeah, you have these growth rates. So there's 2 growth rates. You got EBITDA, you got tax rate. Those are the primary ones. But remember, there is an invested capital sales. I kind of skipped over this because again, Target's productivity has been in a relatively narrow range. Now, in this model, I've actually improved their productivity. One could make an argument that maybe I improved it too much and I could play around with this, right? But generally, I've been leaving the productivity alone. Okay, but you always could change that. Other questions? All right, as I said, I've been recording this. I'm gonna stop the recording so it can process shortly. There are 2 ways to access this recording. One is if you go to the Zoom cloud recordings, you can watch the Zoom cloud recording. Secondly, I'm gonna post this on YouTube as soon as the cloud recording processes, hopefully in 15 minutes or so. But as I said, if you've been following along and you're able to get to where I got, then it probably wouldn't take you too long to finish the other 3 models, submit your files, and be done. Okay. If you haven't gotten to where I got, use the rest of this class time because other classes are coming in later today, and I want to make sure that you have time to use your Bloomberg terminals. So try and get the Bloomberg data now. You can always play with the model later if you don't have time to finish it right now, but at least get the data. All right. And again, remember that you're going to a similar assignment for Merck. So if you're getting your data for Target, you might as well get your data, just be redundant, do it for Merck as well. Just get all the data at once and then be ready to rock and roll. That'll be my other recommendation.
Professor, do you want us submitting screenshots from Bloomberg of the things that even like you showed us in class, but you want us also submitting our own screenshots?
The screenshot that I want you to submit, no screenshots for the Target in class assignment, because I know what those screenshots are. We just did them together.
Yeah.
Right. But for the Merck assignment, I want you to submit your DES screenshot just so that when the TAs are grading it, they have something to justify your as is.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because I don't think we're going to have too much discrepancy in the other screens, but the share price is the one that could bounce around a little bit, for example, for Merck. And so your as is price might be different than somebody else's based on when you do your as is. So the DES is just a marker for us to validate the as is. If you want to submit the other screenshots with it, feel free, but I'm only requiring the DES for homework 9.
Okay, thank you.
Other than the forward cell and the write-up. For this Target in class, there's no write-up. It's just make sure you know how to use the process, quickly create those 4 models. Don't be too crazy in your bull and your bear.
Professor, one more thing. Can you upload the screenshots that you took in class today for this? I know that we don't really need it, but.
Well, I was hoping you would take them yourselves, but yes, I can upload the screenshots.
Okay, because like some of mine, like even though I screenshot it, like literally like 5 seconds after you, it changes. So I just want to have like this one as like a template for like when we actually have to do our homework.
I'll put those up there just so they can also match the videos on what we did.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? And I'll put that into the TGT under the file section. That's where you'll find it. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to process the recording. And again, we'll discuss all of this in class on Monday. Have a good and safe week. And that person that wanted to ask me, if you want to stick around, the question, happy to talk.